Welcome back, 412 Youth Middle Schoolers. We're so glad to have you back for another Wednesday night lesson. As always, we're going to start with our base scripture, which is 1 Timothy 4:12. It says, "Let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, in purity." So the last few weeks we've been talking about love, and tonight we're going to talk about how love is the greatest virtue. So in 1 Corinthians 13:13 it says, "And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." So how can we be an example in love? And the first thing is to make love a priority. You know, loving people can be difficult. This message of love is not for the faint of heart. Often situations we find ourselves in or circumstances that come up do not make love the easy or obvious decision. But the Bible is clear on God's expectation for us. In 1 John 3:11 it says, "For this is the message you have heard from the beginning. We should love one another."
This makes it pretty clear.
Yeah. This love thing is hardcore. The world would like to convince you that choosing to walk in love makes you weak or soft. The truth is actually the opposite. You know, doing things in love are often too difficult for those who are weak or soft. You know, there's a country song that came out probably 30 years ago now called "Living on Love." It was and is still a pretty popular song. And in the chorus, there's a line that says, "It sounds simple, that's what you're thinking, but love can walk through fire without blinking."
So think about that for a second. Does that sound like something that's soft or weak? Love isn't scared. It walks through fire without blinking. It doesn't hesitate to do the loving thing. It doesn't have to think about it or like psych itself up to do something, you know, like when you know you've got something kind of scary you've got to do, or something that might be difficult, you kind of got to psych yourself up and say, I can do this. Love doesn't have to do that to do something that's sacrificial. Think about the three Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They had a deep love for God in their hearts. And when they were told that they had to worship an idol or be thrown into the furnace, what did they do? They were like, no problem, which way to the boiler room? Like, their love and trust in God overpowered any fear that tried to come into them, and they literally walked through the fire without blinking. That's what kind of hardcore, no fear kind of stuff love does.
So why make love a priority? Why can't we just know that when the time comes we should choose to love and just do it then? It's because choosing love is not always the easy choice. You know, we must gain skill in walking in and choosing love. You know, how do you choose or gain skill, in anything? You know, that's pretty simple. You do that by doing it over and over and over again. Just like learning a video game or a sport that you're interested in. You keep playing it, right? You spend more time and more time on it, doing the same things over and over again until you understand it and you get it right, and it's like second nature. You know, you think about it and maybe even read about it from other people who've mastered it. You know, YouTube, I know, is a big thing for a lot of video games, where people who've mastered these games can go through and show you how to beat whatever level it is that you've been stuck on for 2.5 weeks. You know, it's there. So we have to put the time in and work at it to be better at it.
So we spend time on what we think is important, right? So in 1 Corinthians 13:3, it says, "If I gave everything I had to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it. I could brag that I did that. But if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. It would have been for nothing. You could give yourself and die for something, but if it's not out of love, you didn't gain anything. And in Matthew 22:37-40, it says, Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments." So that means that everything that it is in all the Old Testament, all the scriptures, is fulfilled when we walk in love. Jesus gave love priority over all other Christian values. So love is like top dog for Jesus. Every thought, every response, every act of goodwill must first pass through the filter of love, or it means nothing at all. Everything we do, every act, from choosing our career in life to choosing which chair to sit in at lunch, must first be presented with the question, how would love do this? From there, we make our choice. But when we ask that question, we must also be open to the answer maybe being something different than what we would want to hear. Often love chooses things differently than what our flesh would choose.
Right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how to embody the distinguishing nature of love. So when we demonstrate our walk in Christian love, it distinguishes us or sets us apart from the rest of the world. In John 13:35, it says, "By this love, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." By this love, all people will know that you are my disciples. Not by the fact that you go to church every Wednesday and Sunday. Not by the fact that you wear Christian t-shirts or you listen to Christian music all the time. Not the fact that you look a certain way or that you are from a certain part of the world. Or even if you preach the gospel. Jesus said, "By this love, all people will know that you are my disciples." If you have what? That's right, love for one another. We learn so much better when we see what we're learning about in operation and not just reading about it or hearing about it. That's why a lot of times you learn much better when you do an experiment in science or have an activity that you do in another class or another subject that really sticks with you. You really learn it when you go through it. You can remember it because you experienced it. You saw it in action, not just on paper or heard about it in a lecture.
This is how we want to be with love. We're not only to tell people about the love of Jesus, the love of God, the love that we have as Christians. We're not only to just preach about it. We are to show it, demonstrate it, to walk in it, to actually give others a chance to experience the love that Jesus has for us. Expressing and showing and walking in love makes a true difference. There's a story that I read recently about a missionary who was in East Africa named Ira Gillett. And when he came home, he was telling some of the experiences that he had seen overseas. And he noticed that there were groups of native people there that would walk past several government-owned and operated hospitals and go many extra miles out of the way to receive medical care at the missionary compound where he was. So one day he noticed this happening. It happened often. And he went to those people and he asked them, why would you go so far out of your way and past so many other facilities that could give you medical care to come all the way out to the missionary compound and get it when you would be getting the same treatment there that you would here? And they replied, the medicines may be the same, but the hands are different. It mattered to these people that they received medical care from hands that were loving. It made a difference to them that the love of God was shown at the missionary compound, and not just making sure that they were taken care of physically like what was happening at the other hospitals. So it made so much of a difference to them that they would go out of their way. They weren't just driving a few extra miles across town. These people were walking, making a physical, hard-earned effort to get to this place where they were shown love. In some cases, this could have been a risk to their health, because they had to go extra time, they had to go extra miles and exert that much more effort to even get there. But the love they experienced there at the missionary compound made such a difference to them that it was worth it. It was worth it to them to put in that extra effort. Those people at the missionary compound, they showed the love of God. They were an example of love to others, just as we are to be an example of love to others. It makes a difference. Even if we don't see it at first, even if we may never see it at all, it makes a difference to people.
That's right. So we're going to end it there for tonight. We're going to continue this lesson next week. We believe that you got something out of this. We love you, and we'll see you next week. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.